All right, cool. So, guys, we have Cathy Phelps who's joining us. She's got an amazing story, her accomplishments. The reason I want her to share this story about strength is because you've overcome a lot of challenges. Like you've
For
overcome some
sure.
serious challenges. So, as you guys saw in the description, one of the big ones is the arthritis that you suffer from. And so, Cathy, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of just open up this story going back to what you were like 29 years old in 2007. Is that right?
Correct.
So 29 years old in 2007, you've been diagnosed with this arthritis, but it's not what most people think. Will you just kind of share with us exactly what this arthritis is and what some of the challenges are for you with having it?
So in 2007, my symptoms started in 2006. It took them just a little over a year to fully diagnose me. And actually, they had to do genetic markers to find with a surety that rheumatoid arthritis was what I have. Um, I was working as a registered nurse at the time, so I was in the medical field. So it was not what I wanted to hear because I knew that RA can be very debilitating. But to give you a brief overview of what RA is, it is an autoimmune disease. It is not your osteoarthritis, wear and tear. It is the immune system attacks the joints and starts eating away at the connective tissue and at the joint itself. But it doesn't just affect joints. It can affect mucous membranes, make dry eyes. One of my side ones is I can suddenly have an anaphylactic reaction type reaction, and it's just my body reacting to itself. It's just the immune system is just haywire, and that ultimately is what took me out of being a nurse, because I ended up in the emergency room in the middle of a shift.
Oh my gosh.
And being the only nurse on the unit I was working on meant I had to find staff from another unit to come cover my patients so I could go to the emergency room. And it was kind of a scary night. And ultimately, I had one more similar episode afterwards, and that's when they said, no, being a nurse is not going to be effective anymore. But for 11 years, we fought to get me in remission, changing medications. And in remission means that my inflammatory markers are low enough that there is no active inflammation. So any pain I'm feeling at that point is strictly from damage already previously done.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about that pain. And, when you say that you're admitted to the emergency room, you're having to be pulled off the floor during work and things of that nature. Like for someone who doesn't really understand what you went through, it sounds like hell. Like, yeah.
It was rough. So the pain, start with the pain. Every day, it takes about 2 hours in the mornings for me to get to the point that I can walk and move without significant pain, generally, just because of the damage that's been done to my joints. It's not a fun way to live, I guess you could say, but it could be worse. I'm still able to get up and move, and there are patients who don't have that ability.
How about that? Okay.
So, yeah, it is a very painful disease, and the more we can keep the inflammation under control, the better it is for me. And that is where beginning to train made a huge difference for me.
I love that. So let's dive into that, and I really want to clear this up too. Like I don't think we even touched on this, but the arthritis is in your hips as well as your knees, correct?
So I have osteoarthritis, which is the run-of-the-mill wear and tear in my knees. It was progressed quicker by the rheumatoid arthritis. My hip is actually from the treatment for the RA caused loss of blood flow to the joint.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that caused that joint to start breaking down. So that is, I guess, a side effect of the RA treatment. And so my left hip and both knees need to be replaced, but you have to have a BMI under 40 for a joint replacement now. So
Wow.
that
Okay.
kind of left me, it's like a vicious cycle, and I can understand where patients get so frustrated in this vicious cycle, because you have to lose weight to get the joint replacement, and to lose weight you need to move more, but your joints hurt so you don't want to move. So
Mm.
it's that vicious circle that patients can get stuck in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk about that process for you. It's like, so for 11 years you were battling with this stuff,
Mhm.
and then you decided, okay, I'm going to start exercise. Or let me ask you this, like before you came to Mayhem, did you try to do exercise? Did you try to do diets? Did you try to do this, you know, and kind of talk about that experience?
So I had done keto for about 2 years prior to Mayhem. I
Hmm.
yo-yoed a lot with keto because it was extremely hard for me to follow, um, largely because I don't like a lot of very strong flavored foods. And you eat a lot of meat, a
Hmm.
lot of meat. And so it just got overwhelming to eat the same things all the time.
Hmm.
And so it was easy to deviate from the plan. I did some chair yoga just to try to maintain some flexibility,
Hmm.
and some motion, and that it helped some, but it wasn't, I don't think it was enough movement.
Okay.
Um, so then when Vern started with Mayhem, I started to see what a difference it made for him. And I'm like, well, maybe
Hmm.
I'm willing to try anything at this point, because I
Mm.
had just gotten the news that my hip needed to be replaced, and I had right at 200 pounds to lose. So, yeah, I was like, well, maybe we'll give this a shot.
Okay. And so what were your feelings on that? Like you saw, Vern came into the gym, he started working out, he's getting, to progress. Was there fear? Was there apprehension? Was there like thoughts of like, well, I can't do this. I can't do what Vern is doing. Anything like that?
Absolutely, because he, was doing a lot of leg dominant major lifts, and
Hmm.
those are not things that I knew I could do.
Hmm.
So there was maybe this isn't going to work. There was some fear, some um, hesitancy
Hmm.
to give it a try,
Okay.
but we overcame that.
We overcame that. How you want to kind of share with that with some of the people that are watching here that are kind of like, man, I'm kind of in that same boat. Like there's maybe they have some aches and pains. Maybe they have some apprehensions about starting a strength-based program, because you're just like, I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want, maybe they have that fear. What was it like? Can you just walk them through the process of what that was for you, um, to kind of get
So
over that?
I was very concerned. I had been told my entire, since I was diagnosed, to do only low impact to no impact exercise.
Hmm.
So you don't expect weight training to be low or no impact.
Hmm.
But I talked with Sean. We had a video call, and we discussed um, my my needs, what I needed to lose weight. I just, that was the big thing at the time, was I just need to lose weight.
Hmm.
So he brought me in and walked through just some simple dumbbell exercises, some trying to remember what we did those first few weeks. We did dumbbell exercises, some like plate lifts, some band work,
Hmm.
um, and I found I could do it and progress. Actually, if I remember right, progressed fairly quickly the first month.
Yes, indeed.
And
We had to keep up in the weight, up in the reps. Yes.
then in September we started. You were like, well, let's try benching and see what we do with that.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I was like, I can't do this. And the bar, just the empty bar, felt so heavy. I'm
Mhm.
like, I just can't do this. And there would be days I would leave so frustrated.
Mhm.
But we progressed, and
Yeah.
now my last tested bench was 105.
That's
So it can be done. You just have to push through. And I can tell you, on the days that I train, my pain levels drop by at least 25 to 30%.
and how huge is that for you?
That is huge. I've cut pain medication back from 3 times a day to some days I don't take it at all.
Wow.
Some days once a day is all I need, just the morning, kind of just to help break that morning pain so I can get moving. But it's made such a huge difference, and it doesn't have to be running and jumping, and you know you don't have to do
Amen.
box jumps. You don't have to. You can find something that works for you.
Amen. I love that. And so I want to kind of backtrace a little bit, because if people miss this, like, you were struggling with a 45-pound bar. But first, before you even touch on that, we had a conversation about why, you wanted to do some bench pressing in the first place. And if I remember right, like, it was going back to high school. Like, you want to kind of go back into that just a little bit, because you were an athlete. And I think I like to dig into that just a little bit.
Um, I did hang out with the wrestling team some in high school, because I've always been a big girl. So I didn't I didn't play sports so much as I would just hang out with them in the weight room,
Hmm.
because there was a couple of the guys on the team who also were in my orchestra class. So we kind of just hung out a lot together after school,
Nice.
and did some benching then. And of course, amongst guys, it's an ego lift, I guess, for some of them.
Especially in high school. Yes.
So I had a pretty significant bench in high school. Um, it was right at 300 pounds.
Wow.
Um, so for me to get to the point that an empty bar was a challenge was, in a lot of ways, very depressing.
Hmm.
But I had to realize I can get it back. I just
Hmm.
have to work for it. And
Oh,
I'm not 16, 17, 18 anymore.
amen to that, right?
We're a few years past 40 now, so.
Okay, so we're fit in our 40s, like we're crushing it in our 40s now after 11 years of dealing with this arthritis. Let me ask you this, you can feel free if you don't want to answer this, but did your doctors, like, whenever you had arthritis, whenever they diagnosed you, did they ever say anything like stay away from strength training? Did they say, like, did they give you any pointers, any advice on doing that kind of stuff? Or what was that conversation like?
So I was pointed repetitively to water aerobics
Okay.
because it's no impact.
Hmm.
Um, in addition to my diagnosis, when I was diagnosed, I was put on prednisone. I've been on prednisone now since 2007, the winter of 2006. I've been on prednisone. So if anybody is familiar with prednisone, it causes weight gain,
Mm.
um, pretty significant weight gain for a lot of people.
Okay.
And now I am completely dependent on it. My body cannot do without the extra prednisone because
Mm.
it can alter the way your body produces natural steroids. So it's something I will always have to take at least a low dose of it. And we're in the process of backing me back down and trying to find a good maintenance dose now.
Okay.
But in the with the combination of prednisone and gaining weight quickly, and them telling me, well, the longer you can keep your joints from breaking down, the better. And me not putting two and two together and saying, wait a minute, it's the disease that's breaking down the joints and not the movement.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a minute, let's try to get the disease under control better, and not realizing that exercise may very well be my ticket to getting the disease under control.
How about that? Yeah.
You know,
Hindsight is 2020, right?
if I had known this like 10 years ago,
Oh,
it would probably be a very different situation right now. But I
okay.
didn't. But it doesn't mean we can't redeem the time.
That's right. That's right. It's
So
important what we're doing today versus what happened yesterday.
I can't focus on what happened before.
Yeah.
I've just got to push forward.
I love that. I love that. So let's spring back ahead now. 45-pound bars challenging. Now we're bench pressing 105. You want to talk about kind of the progression of that, like when we started doing the bench press and then stepping into your very first competition at Walker's. Do you want to talk about that experience?
So I visited in October of last year, just a little over a month after I started benching. And there was a little bit of a, hey, maybe I can do this. And so we started preparing, and I competed in March at Walker's. For me, just as much as competing was going up and down the steps to get into the gym. Anybody who's been there, there's a really long flight of steps to get down in the basement, and I use a walker, so yeah, that was an adventure.
That was
But
quite the warm up there for sure. Yeah.
There's a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes from, even if you don't make all the lifts you wanted to make, there's a sense of pride and accomplishment from knowing that you put forth your best effort.
Yes.
And there's so much that can go into whether or not you make the lifts, sleep, environment, there's just all kinds of things. But as long as you put forth your best effort, you can walk away with your head held high and be proud.
I love that. I love that. And you had so many people reach out to you, and because I think you really took the room by surprise with the spectators. And, we had all the athletes, obviously, the Mayhem crew and the other people from Team No Neck on up, all the surrounding peers that, we're all pulling for you. We're all encouraging you. But it was the spectators that I felt like they were just in awe. And did you have anybody reach out from the crowd or anything like that?
Before we left, there were people that I didn't know, walk up to me and tell me that I had inspired them. And it's an unreal feeling to know that you've inspired someone to maybe, who may not be training at the moment, to make that first step and say, if she can do it, then I can do it. But at this point, I want to share something. I was listening to a podcast with James Spurgeon, who is a disabled athlete as well.
Yep.
And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, I'm not that special. I've just had to find a way to do the same thing that everyone else can do. And it struck me, and it's like, that's true. I've just had to find a way to adapt the things that others are doing and find a way to do them. It doesn't make me any more special than anyone else. It's just I've had to be more creative.
Absolutely. We did do a lot of creative training.
We did. Still am doing a lot of creative training.
We still do, right? So now, have you met James? Did you guys meet?
I did.
Cool. Well, I would love to talk about that. So let's move into the America's Strongest Disabled. competition that you did. When was that competition?
It was in August.
Okay.
So summer, I'm training for America's Strongest Athlete with Disabilities in the middle of COVID. Gym shut down. Um, Thankfully, Bev opened up her gym to me to be able to train, and that was such a blessing. Um, the Everything I did at that competition was seated,
Hmm.
either on a bench or in a wheelchair. Um, I got to meet some amazing disabled athletes. James is one of them. Mike, who is an amputee. Tyler from Michigan, who's a leg amputee.
Wow.
Just an amazing group of guys. I was the only woman that competed,
How about that?
but it was really an awesome experience.
Mm. Made a lot of new friends.
I did.
I
And
love
it is one of the only competitions for athletes with disabilities
it.
in
Mhm.
the US.
How about that? And you said that's like one of two. Like
There's
there.
two. The
Okay.
second one is the Arnold has an adaptive strongman category as well.
Gotcha. And I know that we have talked about wanting to see that more, like want to see that growth happen.
I would love to see more competitions for athletes with disabilities or adaptive categories added to regular competitions.
I love that. I do love that. And then the organizer of the one that you did, Chris, I can't think of his last name off the top of my head.
Um,
Varelo,
Fascio,
Baccio, that's it. Talk about
he
him a little bit and what his passion is with all that.
he is, and it just hit me. There is one more. There is now an adaptive category
Oh,
for static monsters.
very good.
So it is a seated log, and depending on the where you compete, it's either a lever pull or a seated bench. I mean, a seated deadlift, one of
Deadlift.
the two. But yeah, it's they have added that to static monsters, which was nice.
That
I
is
thought that
cool.
was pretty cool. But he
That's very cool.
heads up that in the Columbus area. He works with a group of athletes in that area that are adaptive.
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of the gym that they work out
Where?
of, but he puts on a competition every year um, for, and it's only for athletes with disabilities. It's strongman. He comes up with some crazy, crazy, crazy events.
Yeah, you want to talk about a couple of your events because so actually go into the spectrum of it. Like you have 5 events, right?
We had 5 events. We had a log press.
Hmm.
Um, for anyone who has only the use of one arm, they did a circus dumbbell.
Okay.
Um, Everyone else was either a seated or standing log, depending. He has the way he divides it out is there are seated categories. There's seated neuro, which are there was an athlete with CP,
Mm.
um, cerebral palsy. There was an athlete who had neuro damage from 9/11. He was in New York at the time when the towers came down, and it damaged his neurological system. Um, then there's standing, and then there was the ones with only use of one arm, who also were for the most part standing. But my events were seated log. He has adapted the deadlift because he feels like the seated deadlift is not a fair event
Mm-hmm.
because people with short arms um, can't block out.
Or he's one of those.
He's one of those. He has really short arms. Um, so he adapted and created a thing almost like it's kind of like a prowler, but he went through all of the testing to find the exact length that the bottom needed to be so that the you didn't have any weight from the apparatus. So the
Mm-hmm.
only weight you were lifting is what's on what plates are added. Um,
That's cool.
so it's a lever pull deadlift, and it will only allow it to come 18 inches off the ground.
Mm.
Um, and then we had a loading event, which was, that was an interesting event. It was odd objects. We had Mauser block,
Mm-hmm.
um, a, a ball, which was similar to a stone. It was 100 pounds.
Wow.
I think the Mauser block was 150.
Jeez.
There was 2 fire hydrants. I didn't even get to those. I can't remember what the very first thing was though.
Was it a
But there
keg?
was
It wasn't a keg. We practice with kegs, but
we practiced with kegs for the fire hydrants.
mm-hmm.
We practiced I think it was a smaller slam ball. I think it was a 50 or 75 pound to start with. But the way he had it set up, you were going from a barrel to a large wire spool. So
Mm-hmm.
for us seated athletes, you were taking it from about even with your shoulders up above your head,
Wow.
which was a challenge for me. And
And
now
you're
I know if he does that event again, now I know what it's more like and how better, because I was going, all of my work I did from even level to even level. So now I
right.
know to go up. But that was a cruel event, and he knew it was. And then we had a throwing event,
That's right.
and the truck pull.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, and so I like, and you killed them all. Like we, what was your log press on that event? What did you end up getting?
100, I think 100 pounds. I made my 100, missed the 110.
Okay, so we went from a 45-pound bench press bar to a 100-pound log in less than a year.
Yes.
That's it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And now the log is where's your log press now?
My highest is 108.
Mm-hmm.
The program I'm working now, I'm working 531.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be retesting again in about 3 weeks
That's
to see where
fantastic.
I'm at.
I love that. So what is next for Cathy? What is next on deck? Where are you going from here out?
So one of my goals right now is to continue. I am still focusing some on weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
but I am enjoying the movement so much, being able to just train. Um, so, and I'm finding that if I don't focus on what I eat to lose weight, but focus on what I eat to fuel my training,
I'm
it
so
makes
glad you said that.
it makes a difference.
Mm,
And it's easier for me to make sure I eat better if I'm eating to fuel the training.
I love that.
So I'd like to continue to gain strength for one thing. I
Mm-hmm.
have started adding box squats to my training in trying to build the strength in my knees and hip.
Mm-hmm.
I have read some articles on people doing that and not needing their joints replaced after all.
How about that?
So if I can build stability, I'm hoping that we'll see where this goes. Let's just put it that way. We'll see
I
where it goes.
I love it, Cathy. It sounds like you're becoming your own expert. I mean, that's really what I'm getting out of this.
You have to. You are your best advocate
Yes.
for
Yes.
anyone suffering with any medical issues, especially. You
Mm-hmm.
are your best advocate.
Without a doubt. And I love that, like how, you know, you have the RA, you're apprehensive about going to the gym, you're already, feeling a little discouraged about what you see Vern do, and maybe I can't do it. You couldn't in there anyway. We're able to start up the journey, then you start competing, and now you're doing your own research. It's like, hey, I could do box squats. I've seen other people that are beating this condition, the same types of condition that I have, by strength training, by improving strength. And I love what you said too about the nutrition aspect, not eating for fat loss, not eating for weight loss, by eating for performance, because the strength training is what you thoroughly enjoy. Would you just go into that mindset shift a little bit? Because I think that is huge. And I really want people to grasp this, is that so often we get tied up with, just so narrow focused on, I got to lose weight, this and that, this and that, this and that, that they actually undercut their calories so much that actually stalls their progress. Whereas you said, okay, I'm going to eat for performance. I'm going to eat for strength. And what has that done for you?
It has taken the stress away from what I eat.
Boom.
Big time. Because I know that if so I've learned that if I eat to fuel, good food equals good lifts. Bad food equals bad lifts. So
true.
I've got to eat to fuel my workouts. And now I don't have to worry about, is this food going to make me gain weight or not? Is this food going to benefit me when I go to train?
I love that.
Is this going to help me get closer to my training goals? So my focus is not split now. It's one focus.
Man, you're just hammering all the nails today. You're just hammering them all. I love it. I really do. The one focus, the eating for performance, the focus on strength. I don't know. I love this part. This is the part of coaching that I absolutely love, is when the client becomes their own expert and they're hitting all the nails through the board. And I just see so much potential and so much more for you in the very near future. I really do, because you've got a handle on all this. Like,
one day at a time.
One day at a time. I love that. So Cathy, as we kind of wrap up here, do you have any advice? Do you have anything that you would like to maybe that I didn't ask about that you would like to just dive in a little bit more? Somebody, again, who might be struggling, somebody who might be they're trying, they are involved in fitness. They are trying to lose weight. They are trying to overcome some obstacles, some hurdles. What would be words of encouragement or advice that you would offer to somebody today?
So one of my biggest things is what works for one person isn't going to work for everyone. So what works for me may not work for you. Be your own advocate. Look for what's going to work for you. Try different things. One of the newest for me, the trying the box squats, I did my research. That's the other thing. Do your research. Don't depend on what just someone tells you. Get out there. There's so much information. Read.
Yes.
And don't read just one source. Look at different sources and compare them, because one person's point, it may take a conglomeration of different things to get what you need, or to get you where you need to be. And don't be afraid to move. Try it. If it hurts, okay, don't do that again.
There's always an alternative, right?
That there always is an alternative. And if your legs don't work, you can work your upper body. If your upper body's not working right, work your legs.
There we
Just
go.
Move.
Just move. Just keep on moving. I love it. I want to see. So I know we talked about a little bit of, future contests that are coming up. Do you have any future contests on the horizon?
America's Strongest Athlete with Disabilities has tentative dates. It's between 2 weekends in May of 2021. So that is something that I am working towards. In the meantime, I'm just continuing to follow my program and try to trust the process.
I love that, Cathy. I love you just talked about, or you just mentioned, something to work towards. Like, so we're doing these competitions, whatever. How important is that to you to always have something kind of out in front of you that you're working towards?
Oh, it's so, so important, because if you don't have a goal, then you're going to just end up wandering aimlessly.
Boom. I love
You've got to
that.
have a goal.
And it changes the dynamic of the focus, does it not?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to, if I lose focus from where I'm going, then as you can tell, I've built one thing upon another, upon another, upon
Yes.
another, and then my house is going to fall down.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have a training goal, then my training isn't focused, then my eating isn't focused, and then where am I? I'm back where I was July of last year.
Not
And
going to
we
do
don't
that
go
again.
there.
We're not going to do all the pain, all the suffering, and we're still working through pain. Like, I don't want people to have the misconception that, every day is just a flawless, beautiful, easy day for you now. Like, there's still struggle, right?
Absolutely. So quite a few people know Vern and I ended up with COVID in September. I was knocked out of remission for a couple months and found out Monday I'm back in remission again, which
Perfect.
is really fast. I honestly expected to be 6 months or longer getting back
How
into
about
remission.
that?
But I've been back in the gym. This is my 6th week back after having COVID, and I'm already back in remission.
Guys, I want you to really grasp onto this, because that's what strength training does. That's what fitness does. We're continuously breaking our bodies down so that it does become stronger. It does become, the body's a very highly adaptive organism. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So when we're constantly breaking it down and encouraging it to build back up, when we do get sick, when we do get out of remission, when things of that nature happen, the body's actually faster to make its comeback. We built the immune system. It's building the process of being, okay, I've been through this kind of stress before. I go through this stress daily of being broken down to build back up. So when we do get sick and when these things happen, the body rebounds so much more effectively and so much more efficiently than if we're not currently doing any type of exercise. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it, Cathy. So what I want to do, we got a couple more minutes. I've got a phone call coming up at 1:00, but if you guys have any questions, I'm going to scroll through my comments right now. If you guys have any questions, actually, Cassie Morgan has one already. Cassie asked, and this is a while back, she said, do you have specific triggers for the RA?
Anytime I get sick, a cold, flu, anytime I get sick, which is really easy to do because one of the treatments for RA is immunosuppressant. So they weaken my immune system to treat the RA. So anytime I get sick, it causes me to flare, or significant amounts of stress will cause me to flare. Those are the two big things that will cause me to have a flare. And when I have a flare, there have been times I literally could not move. One of the worst, I was on a trip and we were on the way back, and by the time we got back, I could not get out of the car.
Oh my gosh.
And I just cried in pain. It just hurt so bad. And ended up having the rescue squad had to come and get me out of the vehicle, take me to the emergency room, 3-day hospital stay, and massive doses of steroids later. I was doing much better, but that one was actually triggered by an allergen. The hotel we stayed in had suede pillows on the bed.
Oh my
and I
gosh.
am severely allergic to suede. So yeah.
So go into that a little bit. Like, whenever you do plan trips and you're planning maybe vacations, do you have to call ahead and be like, look, I've got these allergies. Can we make sure that, what's that process look like for you?
We stay pretty much exclusively in one hotel chain.
Okay.
because we know what to expect, because that hotel chain is consistent from hotel to hotel. So we don't have to worry about as many surprises that way. This particular trip, I was with my dad and he had made the reservations, and um, for a group of us, and in a hotel we'd never stayed in before. So that
Holy
was not
smokes.
something we were expecting. Um, and actually didn't even 100% realize what was going on until it was too late
Oh my
to
gosh.
to undo what had already been done. But yes, for us now when we travel, it's a really, we have to plan way ahead. You know, we have to ask for a handicap accessible room and
Hmm.
different things like that. But by sticking with one chain, then we know kind of what to expect. At least we're not going to get surprises of the allergens or whatever in the room that may cause an issue.
Holy smokes. Man, some of the things that, you just don't really take into account, you know. I mean, for me specifically. Um, but yeah, that's amazing, Cathy. That is amazing. You're getting a lot of love for the bench press, by the way. You know, a lot of love for the bench press. Cassie said, I love that you are your best advocate. Absolutely. Jeff Richardson says, Cathy has come so far, so proud and inspiration to us all. Beverly says, wow, that bench press is amazing. So you're killing it. And of course, you got I'm so proud of my wife from Vern. We'll be talking to Vern in a couple of weeks, guys, which is awesome. Is there any other questions, guys? I got about 10 minutes or so if we have any other questions um, before we wrap this thing up. But this has been awesome. This has been eye-opening to me, Cathy, about so much of what you've been through. And, there was the days that you would walk into the gym and I would ask, how are you doing? Like I kind of always do. And there was days you're like, yeah, I'm great. Now those days, this has been a rough morning. I got a much more thorough understanding now what those rough mornings mean. So, and
I
then
try
guy,
not to I try
yeah.
not to complain,
Mm-hmm.
because I know there are people who have it so much worse than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to take it in stride and just push forward,
I love that.
because there's no point if I let myself dwell in the pain,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't have good outcomes.
Yeah.
So just got to keep moving forward. And like I
Yeah.
said, being in the gym has done wonderful things for me as far as controlling the pain. It makes such a difference. We actually were talking this morning. I will have 5 days of training in likely this week,
Wow.
which is becoming more of the regular. Oh, let me
That's
touch
tough.
on something that I haven't touched on yet. I have
Okay.
started keeping a weight total, a
Okay.
total weight lifted over, I think I told you about this in January.
Yes.
So I keep a weight total over the course of each month and then over the course of the year. For the first time this year, I topped 100,000 pounds for the month of November.
My God. Again, can you just explain what the total weight means for someone who's kind of like, wait a minute, how does she lift all that weight? Can you kind of go into what that means?
So I'm a math person. This is the way my brain works. So I write down all of my training sessions and what I do, how many reps at what weights. And at the end, I multiply it out and find out the total weight lifted across each training session. So if I do, say, my bench warm-ups empty bar, I do one set of 5, 45 times 5, and then I do my next weight, however many reps and sets of that, and I add it all up.
Beautiful.
So one of the reasons I do this is because it lets me know, am I progressing?
Mhm.
If I'm progressing, then my weight total should be increasing over each month, each year. It should be growing.
Love that.
And if there are days, like I've said, that I don't feel as good, I'm hurting more, I'm flaring, whatever,
Mhm.
I might only lift 3 or 4,000 pounds that training session, but that's okay. But it lets me know where I am for each training session each week, each month. So it's a nice, and like I said, I'm a numbers person. So it was kind of cool to see my total weight for the month of November top over 100,000 pounds.
Do you remember maybe when we were training together, like maybe, because I remember when you were starting to track the total volume and the total weight lifted. Do you have kind of a rough idea where you were at during those training cycles?
Um, the beginnings, I was like between 2 and 3,000 pounds on average
So two
for
to three,
each
so per session or per
per
month?
session.
And now we're at where per session?
Yesterday was 13,000.
So we 100x'd it pretty much. You've added 10,000 pounds per day.
A little bit yesterday was I had lever pulls, and my 3+ what ended up being 25
Holy smokes! Yeah, we
at
got to.
175 pounds.
Yeah, you got to take that
I
number up.
stepped it up, but still, I don't think I stepped it up enough.
That is so funny. That is so funny. Well, Cathy, I love it. I think that's an awesome place to close this out. But you talked about so much here, like, just overcoming the fear, competing now, bringing back that outer athlete or that inner athlete, really. And then you really provided some awesome tips to people, like, eating for performance versus for weight loss, becoming your own expert. Like, that is there's such tremendous value with that, and, doing your own research, and don't let anybody hold you back. So I really appreciate your time with us. Is there any closing thoughts, any closing words? How can people find you if they want to talk to you more? Maybe things of that nature.
I'm on all of my fitness stuff I keep on Instagram, just because it's an easier platform to post on. I'm at Teddy Bear Wife on Instagram. You can also reach out to me through Facebook. And if anybody is got a family member that could really benefit from getting moving more, but is unsure because of health issues, I don't mind at all telling my story, encouraging someone else to get moving, because it honestly could make the difference between life and death for somebody.
Absolutely. 100%. Cathy, what I'll be doing is I recorded this one, so I'll upload it to YouTube. I will share the link with you, so that way you have it for life, and you could reshare the link to anybody that wants to get your story as well. So, guys, it's always a pleasure. Once again, another awesome episode. I hate that I have to cut it a little short here, but next on deck, I wanted to say that we got the Silverback coming up. Daryl Aldridge, he's going to be with us this Monday night at 7 p.m. So I'll get his bio from him soon, and we'll prepare for Daryl's testimonial. But Cathy, thank you so much. This has been awesome and so eye-opening, sharing your story. So I hope you guys benefited. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Cathy, any last words?
No, thank you very much.
Awesome. Take care, guys. Have a blessed day.